There's this person in everyone's life. Maybe it's a coworker, maybe it's an ex, maybe it's your cousin who somehow makes every family dinner about himself. You've called them selfish, you've called them self-absorbed. You've probably thrown around the word narcissist at some point, maybe egoist too. But here's the thing nobody tells you. Those two words, they do not mean the same thing. Not even a little. One of them is a philosophy, the other is a personality disorder. One might actually be running your favorite company. The other is probably leaving a 1-star review because their latte had too much foam. So today we're breaking it all down. Egoist versus narcissist. By the end of this, you'll know exactly which one you're dealing with, and honestly, you might learn something about yourself too. Let's start with why the confusion exists in the first place. Because the words sound similar, they both involve the self. They both can look like selfishness from the outside. But conflating them is like saying a lion and a house cat are the same thing. Because they both ignore you, technically true on the surface, wildly wrong in practice. The word egoist comes from philosophy, specifically ethical egoism, which is the idea that acting in your own self-interest is not just natural but actually rational, even moral. The word narcissist comes from psychology, specifically from narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, and it describes a very specific pattern of thought, behavior, and emotional dysfunction that goes way beyond just being selfish.
Wait, so being an egoist is actually a legitimate philosophy? Like, philosophers actually argued for this.
Not just argued for it, built entire schools of thought around it. Ever heard of Ayn Rand? She practically made egoism her brand.
So being selfish is a philosophy now.
When it's this well-dressed, yes. Okay, the egoist. Let's be precise here because this word gets murdered in casual conversation. An egoist in the philosophical sense is someone who believes that self-interest is the foundation of all rational action, not selfishness in the crude sense of I don't care about anyone. More like I make decisions based on what genuinely serves my long-term well-being. The egoist is not blind to other people. In fact, a smart egoist knows that cooperation, generosity, and even kindness can all serve their long-term interests. They're not heartless, they're just calculating. Think of the egoist as a strategic player. They might help you move apartments. They might even do it cheerfully, but deep down, they're aware of what that goodwill does for their social standing, their relationships, their future. The famous philosopher Thomas Hobbes argued that all human action is ultimately self-interested at its core. Even when we do something that looks generous, we do it because it makes us feel good. Even charity has a self-serving element. It reduces guilt, builds identity, earns social capital. Now, is every egoist this calculated? No. Some are just people who've decided that prioritizing themselves isn't something to apologize for. And honestly, there's something to be said for that. Key traits of an egoist: self-aware, goal-oriented, rational, consistent. They know what they want. They pursue it. They don't necessarily trample others. They just don't put others first. Now, the narcissist. This is where we leave philosophy and walk straight into clinical psychology. And it gets layered fast. Narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, is an actual diagnosable condition listed in the DSM-5. It's characterized by a pervasive pattern of grandiosity, a desperate need for admiration, and a fundamental lack of empathy. Here's the part people miss. The narcissist's selfishness doesn't come from confidence or strategy. It comes from a deeply fragile ego that's constantly trying to protect itself. Think of it this way. The egoist is someone who genuinely feels secure enough to put themselves first. The narcissist is someone who needs to be first because if they're not, something inside them collapses.
So the narcissist actually has low self-esteem, but they seem so confident.
That's the trap. What looks like confidence is actually armor. They're not secure. They're performing security constantly, and it's exhausting for everyone around them.
Okay, that explains so much about my old manager.
Most people's old managers, unfortunately. The narcissist has what psychologists call a grandiose self-image. an inflated sense of their own importance, talent, and uniqueness. They genuinely believe they're special, that normal rules don't apply, that they deserve more than everyone else. And here's the brutal twist. They need you to confirm that belief constantly. Psychologists call this narcissistic supply, the steady stream of admiration, attention, and validation a narcissist requires just to function. Cut off that supply, they don't handle it well, suddenly the charming, confident person becomes defensive, aggressive, or completely cold, the mask slips. And what's underneath is rarely pretty. Key traits of a narcissist: grandiosity, entitlement, lack of empathy, need for admiration, extreme sensitivity to criticism, and a tendency to exploit others without guilt. Alright, let's put them next to each other, because the contrast here is genuinely striking. Self-image: egoist, realistic and grounded. They know their strengths and weaknesses. Their self-interest is built on an accurate understanding of who they are. Narcissist: distorted and fragile. They believe they're exceptional, but deep down they're terrified they're not. Their entire personality is built to protect that fear from surfacing. Empathy: egoist has empathy, they simply choose when to deploy it. They can understand your feelings. They just weigh whether responding to them serves their interests. Narcissist: genuinely limited in empathy, not strategically, structurally. They struggle to truly put themselves in someone else's position, especially when it conflicts with their own narrative. Motivation: egoist, motivated by genuine self-interest, wealth, comfort, success, meaningful experiences, clear, rational goals. Narcissist: motivated by admiration and status, not necessarily real success. The perception of success. They need to look successful, impressive, and superior. Whether they actually are is secondary. Reaction to criticism: egoist, can take it. If the criticism is valid and helps them improve, great, that serves their interests. They're not emotionally shattered by feedback. Narcissist: cannot take it. Criticism, even mild, well-intentioned criticism, is experienced as an attack on their entire identity. The reaction is disproportionate every time. Relationships: egoist, can maintain genuine relationships, long-term friendships, loyal partnerships because these serve their well-being. They understand that relationships require giving. Narcissist: treats relationships as transactions for supply. You are useful to them while you reflect their greatness back at them. The moment you stop, the warmth disappears. Scenario 1: the group project. Classic scenario: 5 people, 1 project, 1 deadline. The egoist in the group does their part well. Maybe they grab the most interesting tasks because those develop their skills. They're not going to carry anyone who isn't pulling their weight, but they deliver on time because a failed project reflects badly on them. The narcissist in the group, they immediately position themselves as the leader. Whether or not anyone elected them, they give everyone else assignments. They attend to all the check-ins to take credit. And when things go right, they accept all the praise. When things go wrong, suddenly it was everyone else's fault. Scenario 2: social media. This one's fun and relevant.
Oh, this one's going to hit home for a lot of people, isn't it?
Every single one. The egoist on social media is deliberate. They build a personal brand because it serves their goals. Every post has a purpose. They're growing something. It's strategic, sometimes impressive, occasionally exhausting to watch, but it works. The narcissist on social media is a different animal entirely. Every post is about validation. The follower count is their self-worth. If a post doesn't perform, there's genuine distress. If someone comments something negative, block, screenshot, subtweet, mutual unfollow, full emotional spiral, all before breakfast. Here's a question that comes up a lot. Can someone be both an egoist and a narcissist? Short answer: technically yes, but they're not the same trait wearing the same hat. They just happen to live near each other sometimes. A narcissist is almost always acting in what they believe is their self-interest. So in that surface sense, they're egoist adjacent. But a true egoist is rational and self-aware, and narcissists are neither. Their behavior is driven by fear and compulsion, not clear-headed self-interest.
So the narcissist is actually bad at being an egoist?
Genuinely terrible at it. An egoist manages emotions to serve their goals. A narcissist's emotions manage them. Completely different power dynamic.
That's actually kind of sad.
It is, and that's the part nobody talks about. Because here's what the insult-hurling, name-calling version of this conversation always skips. Narcissism isn't just a character flaw someone chose to have, it develops. Male stickman present, female absent. Male stickman draws to childhood scenes. One showing a stick figure child being ignored completely. One showing a stick figure child on a pedestal being worshipped by adults. Both paths lead to the S. Aim troubled adult figure, white background. Both produce the same result, an adult who never built a stable, realistic sense of self. And so they spend their entire lives constructing one out of other people's admiration. The egoist had no such wound. They simply developed a worldview that centers self-interest as rational. It's a philosophical choice, not a psychological defense mechanism. One is a lens, the other is a wound wearing a mask. Practical question, how do you actually tell them apart when you're standing in front of one? Watch what happens when they don't get what they want. The egoist accepts it, recalibrates, finds another route. They're not happy about it. But they adapt because adapting is rational. The narcissist, the no is a personal attack. It's evidence that you're jealous, incompetent, or beneath them. The reaction is swift, emotional, and completely disproportionate to what actually happened.
Oh no. I know exactly who you're describing right now.
We all do. That's the thing about narcissists. Once you know what to look for, they're impossible to unsee.
I feel like I need to go rethink several friendships.
Take your time, it's a process. So let's close this out properly. An egoist is a philosopher, a rational self-prioritizer, someone who's decided that their own interests are the legitimate center of their decision-making. Not evil, not broken, just honest about the math. A narcissist is not a philosopher. They're a person shaped by wounds they may not even be aware of, running an exhausting performance of superiority to avoid facing a self-image they can't trust. That's not strategy, that's survival. Neither label is something to throw around lightly. Egoist gets misused as a generic insult when it's actually a coherent worldview. Narcissist gets thrown at anyone who posts too many selfies, when it's actually a serious clinical condition. Language matters. Because if you call someone a narcissist when they're just confidently self-interested, you miss the actual narcissist standing right behind them, smiling, waiting for the attention to return to them.
So the moral of the story is, learn the difference before you date one.
The moral of the story is learn the difference before you work for one, date one, vote for one, or become one.
That last one hit different.
Good, it was supposed to. Subscribe, because knowing the difference, that's the whole point.